Welcome to the deep dive. You bring the curiosity, we bring the source material, and together we'll extract the most compelling insights.
Think of it as your backstage pass to becoming seriously well-informed.
And maybe having a little fun along the way.
And today, well, we're plunging into a really fascinating collection. 100 unique masculine baby names.
All starting with the letter C.
Yep, complete with their origins and, what they actually mean.
Exactly. So whether you're maybe on the hunt for the perfect name or just kind of geeking out on etymology.
Or just need some inspiration.
Yeah, this exploration is definitely for you. We're going to unravel the stories sort of woven into these names and see what surprising patterns, what connections emerge.
100 C names. That's quite a list.
It is. Let's dive in.
Okay, so looking at this list, this collection of 100 names, the sheer variety of where they come from is, well, it's striking.
It really is.
It's almost like a snapshot of different cultures and their linguistic histories, all contained within just one letter.
Absolutely. And one of the first sort of strong currents you notice is, well, a wealth of Irish names.
Oh, definitely.
Many with meanings that feel really deeply rooted in their culture. Take Cale, meaning simply slender. Then you have Caelan, which kind of conjures up this image of a powerful warrior.
Right.
Callahan, bright-headed, and Callan, which sounds solid, dependable, rock.
Yeah, and what's interesting about these Irish names, I think, is how often they connect to personal attributes or even like elements of the natural world.
It's true.
You've got Cain, meaning ancient, which gives a sense of, timelessness. Cillian, with its meaning church, monastery, definitely hints at a significant religious history there.
Yeah.
And there's Conan, the little wolf, touch the wild right there. Why do you think we see that prevalence of sort of nature and strength meanings in those early Irish names?
That's a great question. You almost get a sense that back then, names were just directly tied to the values and the environment that were, well, most important.
That makes sense.
Continuing down that Irish line, we have Connor, or Connor, meaning lover of hounds. You can just picture that deep connection with animals.
Right.
Corey and Corey from the Hollow, which feels almost like a secret sort of sheltered place.
Yeah, evocative.
And Cormac, charioteer, sounds like a figure right out of ancient tales.
It does.
Then there are ones like Cullen, pretty straightforwardly handsome, and Cody, which is surprisingly practical, meaning helpful pillow.
Pillow. That's an unusual one.
Isn't it? It's quite a range, even just within the Irish names.
It really gives you a sense of the cultural landscape, doesn't it?
Right.
Where these names came from.
Definitely.
Now, shifting gears a bit, we also see a really strong Germanic presence in this C collection.
Yes.
And here, a very clear theme starts to emerge.
The free man connection, right?
Exactly. We've got Carl, Carlo, Carlos, and the, ever-classic Charles, all stemming from that same root, meaning free man.
It's fascinating how that core idea, that idea of freedom, just resonated across different Germanic languages and cultures.
Absolutely. And it even branches out a little bit. Carlton signifies a settlement of free men. So it anchors that concept to a specific place.
Okay.
Even Chaz, which feels, quite contemporary as a short form.
Yeah, like a nickname.
Right. Ultimately, it has that sense of freedom at its core, too. Then we bump into Conrad, which adds maybe a layer of complexity with bold counsel, and Kurt, just a succinct, brave counselor. You see how different facets of sort of admirable qualities are built upon that initial idea.
Definitely. It really makes you wonder what it meant to be a free man back then in those societies and why that was such a valued characteristic, enough to be reflected in names.
Good point.
Now let's journey over to the Latin roots, because there are a significant number of C names with Latin origins, and their meanings are wonderfully diverse.
That's a key point. I mean, Latin was the bedrock for so many European languages, so its influence in naming traditions is just huge, really widespread. We have Caesar and Caesar, both linked to head of hair, or maybe thick head of hair, which is a surprisingly literal description for such a historically significant name.
It really is. Then there's Cairo, which of course is also a major city, and its meaning is victorious. What does that tell us, you think, when a name shares its identity with a powerful place like that?
Well, it almost imbues the name with a sense of that place's history, its character, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. And the Latin-derived names just keep coming. Calvin, somewhat unexpectedly, means bald. Caspian, with its strong association with the sea, Cassian, meaning hollow, and Cassius, which carries the, well, rather less desirable meaning of vain or empty.
Ooh, yeah. It's a good reminder that name meanings aren't always, sunshine and roses.
Exactly. Not always positive.
Indeed. Then we have Castile, which has this powerful spiritual resonance. Shield of God.
Nice.
Cato, meaning all-knowing, suggests wisdom, intellect. Cecil, rather surprisingly, means blind.
Another unexpected one.
Yeah. Celestino beautifully means heavenly, and Chester, grounding us back at the physical world again, means fortress. It's quite a spectrum of meanings just there.
Absolutely. And we've got Christian and Christopher, both, of course, signifying that connection to Christ.
Natural.
Laud, which means lame, a rather direct and perhaps maybe once descriptive name.
Maybe.
Clement, gentle, merciful. That's a lovely sentiment. Cleo, likely short for Cleopatra, meaning pride, glory. Cletus, called forth. Constantine, steadfast. Corbin, raven, bringing in that nature element again.
Right.
Cornelius, horn. Cortez, courteous. Cosimo and Cosmo, meaning order, decency, and order, beauty, respectively, quite philosophical, those two.
They are.
Creed, an abstract but potent meaning, belief guiding principle. Crispin, curly-haired, another physical descriptor. Christian, just a variation of Christian. Cruz, simply cross. Curtis, courteous. Cyprian from Cyprus. And finally, Caius, meaning rejoice.
Wow.
A real whirlwind of Latin influence.
It truly is.
Yeah.
And, we shouldn't overlook the Scottish contribution to this list either.
Yeah, definitely not.
Where names often have a strong tie to the landscape.
Exactly. The sort of rugged beauty of Scotland seems to echo in these names. We have Calder, meaning rough waters. Camden, winding valley. Cameron, famously meaning crooked nose.
Oh, yeah.
Campbell, beautiful field. Carson, son of Car. And of course, Craig, simply rock. You can almost picture the terrain, can't you?
You really can. Then, if we move to English names, we see a trend towards names reflecting occupations and settlements, a real glimpse into the social fabric of the time.
Absolutely. We already touched on Carlton, the settlement of free men.
Right.
Then there's Chandler, the candle maker, which is just a wonderful little snapshot of historical traits. Clayton, town built on clay. Clark and Clark, the cleric scholar. Clay itself, earth, clay walker. Clifford, ford near a cliff. And Clinton, both meaning settlement or town on a hill. Cooper, the barrel maker. Colton, coal town. Cortland, land of the court. Crawford, ford by the crows.
Ford by the crows. Interesting detail.
Yeah. And even Cove and Covey, referring to a small bay and a brood of birds, bringing nature back into the mix again.
It's fascinating how names can act as these little time capsules, really, preserving details about how people lived, how they worked centuries ago.
It really is.
And beyond these sort of main linguistic groups, we see influences from so many other languages, too.
It's a real melting pot. We've got Arabic with Cairo, as we mentioned.
Pretorius, yeah.
Hebrew gives us Caleb, meaning wholehearted, shame, life. Castile, again, shield of God. And Kobe, supplanter.
Okay.
French contributes Cartier, the transporter of goods. Chandler, again. Chase, the hunter. Chevy, possibly linked to chivalry as knight, horseman. And Curtis, courteous.
Right.
Turkish gives us Sem, ruler. Norse has Colby from the Dark Village. Persian brings us Cyrus, meaning son, throne.
Oh, nice. Powerful.
And Greek gives us Chris, a diminutive, a shorter version of Christopher.
As well as Christian and Christopher again. Cleo, Cletus, Cosmo, and Cyril, meaning lordly.
It really highlights how interconnected different cultures have been throughout history, doesn't it?
It really does.
And how naming traditions often reflect that exchange. We even see an American creation here with Caden, meaning fighter.
That feels quite modern in its directness, doesn't it? Fighter.
It does, yeah. And let's maybe loop back quickly to those names with connections to nature or animals.
Good idea. We saw it in the Irish and Scottish names, but it definitely pops up elsewhere, too.
Yes. We had Calder's Rough Waters, Callan's Rock, Clay's Grounding in the Earth.
Cliff and Clifford's Cliffside, or Ford near a cliff.
Right. Colt for a Young Horse, Corbin the Raven, Conan the Little Wolf, Cove and Covey.
Craig the Rock, Crawford with its crows.
Clyde described as warm, friendly, which is interesting. And Cyan, simply a greenish-blue color.
Yeah. It just shows how the natural world has always been this, powerful source of inspiration for names.
Yep. And we can't forget the diminutives either, those affectionate shorter versions.
Right, like Charlie, Chip, Chris.
Chaz, Siri. They often carry that sense of familiarity, maybe warmth.
Definitely. And then there are those names with meanings that might make you raise an eyebrow a little.
Yeah, like Calvin meaning bald.
Right, or Cassius vain or empty, Cecil blind and Claude lame.
It just goes to show, I guess, that the literal meaning wasn't always the primary factor when people chose a name.
No, maybe it was, family tradition or popularity or just how the name sounded.
Exactly. Could have been nicknames that just stuck.
Could be.
On a more uplifting note, though, there are also plenty of names on this list with really positive or, aspirational meanings.
Definitely. Cairo's victorious, Caleb's wholehearted, Callahan's bright-headed, Cedric's kind and loved.
Nice.
Celestino's heavenly, Chaim's life, Chance meaning good fortune, Clement's gentle, merciful, Cleo's pride, glory.
Constantine's steadfast, Cortez's courteous.
Cosimo and Cosmo's connotations of order and beauty, Cullen meaning handsome, Curtis, courteous, Cyrus, son, throne, Cyril, lordly, and Caius meaning rejoice.
That's a lovely collection of positive attributes right there.
It really is.
Okay, now let's maybe focus on just a few individual names from this pretty extensive list that struck me as particularly interesting or maybe stood out.
Okay, good idea.
Take Caesar, or Caesar. Beyond the somewhat humorous head of hair meaning,
right,
the sheer historical weight of that name is just undeniable.
Absolutely. It instantly brings to mind, Roman emperors and the sense of immense power, authority. The literal meaning almost becomes secondary, doesn't it, to its historical baggage?
It really does. Then we have Cairo, which, as we mentioned, is a significant capital city. The fact that its meaning is victorious just adds another layer of resonance, almost like a built-in destiny.
Yeah, it gives a strong, almost declarative feel, doesn't it? You can imagine someone named Cairo carrying a certain confidence, maybe an expectation of success.
Maybe. And Castile, with its Hebrew origin and meaning shield of God, has a really powerful spiritual connotation. It evokes a sense of protection, divine guidance.
It's a name that carries a profound sense of faith, of guardianship. Very strong.
Caspian is interesting too because it's so directly tied to a geographical location, the Caspian Sea.
Right.
It conjures up images of vastness and maybe even a spirit of exploration or something.
Yeah, names linked to geography often carry that sense of place, don't they? And the characteristics we might associate with those regions, like the wildness of the sea in this case.
Good point. Chandler, the candle maker, is just a wonderful little window into everyday life in the past.
It really is.
It reminds us of a time when even the simplest trades were vital.
These occupational names offer such a tangible connection to social history, the roles people played in their communities.
Definitely. Chevy, that potential link to knight, horseman, makes you think of maybe chivalry, a touch of romance or adventure. It's got a certain flair to it.
It definitely has a certain panache, likely amplified, I suppose, by its association with the car brand.
Oh, good point.
Which itself probably played on those ideas of speed and a certain adventurous spirit.
True. Cillian, with its meaning church, monastery, has a beautiful, almost serene quality. It speaks of a quiet, maybe contemplative existence.
It's a name deeply rooted in early Christian history, isn't it?
Yeah.
It carries a sense of ancient spirituality and peace.
It does. Conan, the little wolf, has a bit of a wild, untamed energy to it, even with that little qualifier.
Yeah, the wolf imagery brings a sense of independence, perhaps a touch of the primal, even if it's softened by the little.
Right. And creed, belief, guiding principle, that's a really powerful abstract meaning for a name.
It is. It suggests someone who is driven by their core values, maybe.
Yeah, it's a name that implies a strong inner compass, a deep commitment to what one holds true. And finally, cyan, simply greenish-blue color. It's just so direct.
Yeah.
Beautifully connected to the visual world.
It highlights how even something as fundamental as, well, a color can serve as inspiration for a name. It's quite cool.
Reflecting on this entire list now, it becomes so clear how deeply interwoven names are with, well, cultural history, values, even the physical environments people lived in.
Absolutely.
Choosing a name really is so much more than just picking something that sounds, pleasing to the ear.
Absolutely. It's often a deeply personal decision, isn't it? Carrying layers of meaning, family history, hopes for the future. This collection of sea names really underscores that richness and diversity.
It really does. So as we conclude this deep dive into 100 masculine baby names, starting with C, we hope you found it as illuminating as we have.
Yeah, it's truly amazing to see the stories and connections embedded within these, seemingly simple labels.
It is indeed, and hopefully it's sparked your curiosity a bit to maybe consider the origins and meanings of names that you encounter in your own life.
We're thinking about.
So here's a final thought for you to ponder. What might the significant presence of, say, Irish, Germanic, and Latin names just within the single letter C suggest about the historical cultural exchanges and influences in the regions where these names became established? Or perhaps consider this. How might the inherent meaning of a name, even if it's just unconsciously perceived, subtly shape an individual sense of self or maybe the way they're viewed by others?
Interesting questions. Definitely some food for thought there.
I think so. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.